What's going on, everyone? Good morning. Hope you are having a great start to your Saturday and weekend. In this video, what we're going to do is break down the weather throughout this weekend and really take a look into our first full week of October. What can we expect? And take a little bit of a peek past the first week of October also, and pretty much just look at the whole first half in October in general. You know, a lot of people here in the eastern U.S., especially the southeast, are wondering when is it going to feel like fall again. You know, waking up here in South Carolina this morning, it definitely was still kind of cool and crisp and around 60 degrees, and it wasn't too bad where I'm located in central South Carolina. But, you know, we're waiting for our next big-time cold front, and a lot of folks are ready for some rain as it's been very dry. I don't even remember the last time we picked up honestly, I don't remember the last time we got a good bit of rain here in South Carolina where I'm located. That changes as we get into early next week, as it looks like a big-time rainy pattern sets up for next week across a good chunk of the eastern U.S. from the southeast all the way up to the northeast. We're also going to talk about how warm it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be crazy warm or anything like that, but I think it's going to be humid and a little bit above average temperature-wise. And we're going to talk about that also. So tonight we'll break down an update on the tropics. I'm just going to let a good 24 hours of model runs roll through and then give you an update of what it looks like as far as the Caribbean and how active it could potentially be. So if you guys have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button for sure for me. Make videos every single day. I'm also a storm chaser. So when there is active weather, a big time weather event, I will get in my car, my little Mazda, and I will drive and go chase it and get some good content for you guys. So like I said, the last few videos, I'm really excited about the future of my channel and sharing good content with you guys. So I will be updating my stuff here in the next few weeks. So keep in mind of that as the presentation will get a good bit better. I found a way to get rid of the ads, so you will not be seeing ads on the sides of these weather models that I show you guys anymore. So that's the good news. So moving forward here, we'll look at the GFS, and we're going to kind of look at the GFS in the European, and we're going to talk about the pattern coming up here. So moving forward, we're starting this around Sunday morning. You notice all the green here? That is a lot of rain. That's widespread rain, showers and storms. Tropical moisture surging all the way up into the Ohio Valley. About the only place in the eastern U.S. that is being saved from any kind of big-time tropical moisture or humid air is really Maine and areas of the northern northeast. So looking here, what's going on is there is a cold front setting up here. This isn't some massive cold front. It's a slow-moving cold front that eventually will pretty much stop moving. And what happens here, it's just draping over, and it's allowing a moist flow out the Gulf of Mexico to really overspread over the entire extreme eastern U.S. and East Coast. So as it's kind of meandering and very slowly moving east, waves of tropical moisture will be enhanced, and it will be very rainy as we get into early to mid to even late part of the week, just about the entire week. As we're getting into midweek, Wednesday into Thursday, you're still seeing widespread green showing up, especially in the south. I really think a corridor from Alabama, portions of northern Georgia up into the Appalachian Mountains, areas of Tennessee, and this circled area right here could potentially see a lot of rain, and that will shift a little bit more north too. But as we get into the end of next week, still a rainy pattern. Then we'll watch the tropics as it looks like an influx of tropical moisture begins to ride a little bit more north. We'll see how that interacts with the lower 48. Much rainier week. We look at the Euro, it pretty much shows the same thing. It agrees here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. It pretty much agrees as we get into Monday. You start to see a lot more rain for the mid-south, the deep south, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, the Ohio Valley. This will gradually begin to shift a little bit more east as the cold front and a upper level low or a cutoff low is kind of lost south of the main jet stream here, the main flow right here, which will also enhance rainfall, which normally sometimes can bring big-time flooding threats when you have a cutoff low as it sits here and spins and enhances rainfall and moisture. And as you can tell, we get into Wednesday and a big swath of moisture begins to shift a little bit more east as the cold front begins to shift a little bit more east. So the threat of rain shifts more east into the Carolinas as we get into the middle to the latter part of the next week. And then there will be some rain for the mid-Atlantic and eventually the cold front gets going, but I really don't think this is going to be a potent cold front that's going to bring any type of big time cool air, but we'll watch that. You look at the National Weather Service, they have something called the Hazards Outlook, and basically it has this area circled in green from the 4th to the 5th through this area right in here for the potential for heavy rain. So that includes areas like Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Triad of North Carolina, and even areas of Columbia, South Carolina. For the potential here as we're getting into, what is the date? As we're getting into basically Monday into Tuesday. There's also going to be a threat a couple days later for the rest of North Carolina, a large, pretty much all of Virginia, a chunk of West Virginia and Pennsylvania as a cold front draping right here. Influx of moisture is riding through the eastern U.S. And then there's a pocket right here for Monday for potential heavy rain for areas of New England. So what's a big enhancing factor of this is a cutoff low right here that develops. And you can see it plain as day. It's a big ridge of high pressures up here, and then a cutoff low is right here. Basically, that's going to be throwing moisture into this area as we get into the early part of next week. That will eventually weaken and pretty much becomes a non-factor. As we're looking at temperature-wise, over the 6 to 10 day range, that runs from, this is actually a little old, so it runs from yesterday. It was issued yesterday, so this is running through the 7th through the 11th. Above average temperatures for the entire eastern U.S., especially the Ohio Valley into the interior Northeast. So might be a slow. In fact, it is. It's pretty much confirmed that it's a slow start, especially for you folks up in the Northeast and the mountains of New York and Vermont and New Hampshire, where it's absolutely beautiful up there. I hadn't even been up there, but I've watched plenty of videos. One day when I get older, I would love to visit that area. I would love to live up in that area as they get all 4 seasons, but I think the colder seasons are obviously a little bit longer than the warmer seasons. As the summer seasons, the warmer and the hot weather down here in the South seems to last forever. I'm sure the winter seems like it lasts forever up in this region. But chances of above average temperatures are much higher. They're more in the 70 to 80% range chances of actually occurring up in this range. So, whatever your average temperatures are at this time of the year, I don't know it by heart, each city up there, but I imagine in these interior sections, your high temperatures average from probably the 60s to low 70s, maybe even cooler than that, depending on how high in elevations you are. So just add a few more degrees of that, and that's probably what's going to be. You look at the 6 to 10 day precipitation chances, and above average for the eastern U.S., the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, especially eastern areas of this section. Near normal everywhere else, so we definitely have a rainy pattern coming up. And unfortunately for your 8 to 14 day range, which this stretches from the 9th to the 15th of October, which pretty much rolls us on through the whole entire rest of the first half of October, above average temperatures look to dominate this. As a big cold weather fan, I hate to see this, but it's just still the changing of the seasons, and it just happens. And I really think that we'll eventually get another big-time cold front in here. So above average temperatures still dominating the eastern U.S. and even the central U.S. But it looks like the rainy pattern eventually just shifts to a more normal pattern. And if we're sitting here, we're going to look at dew points here. And as I've mentioned, if you've been following along, I love looking at dew points as far as trying to find a change in air masses. When you have dew points, I always like to say around sub 55 degrees and lower. It normally symbolizes a dry air mass. When you have dew points above that, in the 60s and 70s, that's definitely a more moist atmosphere. Especially when you get in the 70s, that's more of a tropical air mass. So as you're looking here, if it's hard to see, the areas in green are dew points in the 40s. Obviously, the more lighter bluer mixed with green colors is dew points in the 30s. And then the more bluish colors are dew points in the 30s and 20s. Then you get into purples, and that's in the teens and single digits, which you normally see in the desert Southwest and Arctic air masses. So moving forward here, you notice there's a little bit of leftover dry air still in areas of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. That will eventually get eroded away, and as you can tell, there's a cold front draping across here. It's bringing this moist flow. That's why you see the dew points in the 60s all the way up into Michigan. The cold front's not a big-time cold front, and it's not really moving. It's kind of stalling out. as a ridge of high pressure is kind of preventing this from really moving and buckling this trough from moving more east. So we're getting into midway next week. You notice dew points still in the 60s all the way up into the mountains of New York State. And you notice one thing you look for when you're looking for a big time cold front in the fall is for all this dry air right here to break loose east. And you notice nothing is breaking loose. It's just a moist, above average warmth across the eastern U.S. The only place that's really seeing nice weather is places like Maine and areas of New England, which this time of the year you're a little bit far north enough to actually stay in decent conditions. But as you get into maybe the October 10th range, maybe a little further, and this is about 9 days out, it's pretty far out, you start to see a trough break loose. Now this one only gets into the northeast basically, but we're getting so far out now, guys, past 10 days. When you get 10 days or further, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot in the winter, when you're looking for an Arctic air mass, and I'll tell you what a good example of that this one was early to mid-February this year, when it looked like we were going to get a big-time East Coast clearing Arctic front. Well, eventually it trended to more towards just a big-time cold front for areas of the western South, mid-South, and deep South, and Texas. That was that huge Arctic air mass that affected areas all the way to Brownsville, Texas, and extremely, almost unrealistic cold air affected these areas. That was, in the long term, supposed to make it be the coldest air in 3 years for areas of the southeast, and never made it. It just ended up being more west. So it's very hard to take any cold front you see past 10 days out serious. Very, very hard. So, and you get in the super long range, you do see a massive cold front. And these are dew points, not temperatures, but massive cold front that breaks loose and definitely clears most of the eastern U.S. as we get into mid to the middle part of this month. But it's hard to take it serious when it's so far out. It really is. It's very, very, very hard to take it serious. But as far as how much rain could potentially fall, guys, as we're getting into Monday, we're getting into Tuesday, we're getting into Wednesday, Thursday. We'll go all the way into next Saturday morning. And between now and next Saturday morning, this is how much rain could potentially fall. It's pretty cool. You can see the cutoff here in Maine. It's because troughs are moving through in the northern areas of Maine. They're far enough north where we're not going to see any rain. But the areas you see in the oranges to reds, that's anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe close to 5 inches of rain. So areas the Atlanta to Greenville, Spartanburg, the eastern slopes of the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina could become a flood threat here, and even in Virginia. So a lot of rain could potentially fall. So definitely a pattern shift next week, but temperature-wise, not really a big change. But as far as dry to wet weather, it's definitely going to shift to more of a wet pattern next week for almost the entire eastern U.S. So that's all I got, guys. I'll get y'all an update later tonight. I will be able to double up my videos. I will not be attending any college football games today. It's going to be more of a relaxing weekend. So y'all have a great day. Thank y'all for tuning in, and God bless all y'all.